Welcome to the third great lesson, Humans Come to Earth. The second great lesson showed how over millions of years, or however long, the Earth went from being a hot, barren planet to one teeming with life. Long, long ago, and over a long, long period of time, an astounding assortment of plants and animals appeared on the Earth. In the Earth's animal kingdom, there were fish, insects, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Some animals had internal skeletons, and some had external, which are called exoskeletons. Some animals crept on land, some flew in the air, and others swam in the water. In the Earth's plant kingdom, there were all kinds of trees, grasses, ferns, and flowering plants. The plants and animals of Earth had an excellent relationship because the plants helped provide food for the animals and the animals helped provide food for the plants. How did the plants and animals provide food for one another? Many animals ate plants for food, or they ate animals that ate plants. Plants made food by using water and sunlight along with the carbon dioxide that animals breathed out. By this time, Earth had most of the plants and animals that still exist today. But one important and amazing creature had yet to arrive on Earth. This creature was a type of mammal, meaning it was a kind of animal that fed its young on milk from the mother's own body. This creature had a backbone, so it was a vertebrate. This creature walked on two legs, and each leg had a foot with 5 toes. This creature had 2 arms, and each arm had a hand with 5 fingers. This creature had eyes in the front of its head. Each mother had a special place called a uterus inside her body, and in her uterus, she could carry and nourish young until they were ready to be born. The other thing that was unique about this creature was this: it had a larger brain than any other animal. This type of mammal is now called do you know? A human being, or human. Nobody really knows when the earliest humans arrived on Earth, but most scientists agree that it was millions of years ago. Imagine what the world was like for these first humans so very long ago. The world was a very different place from today. Life was hard for these early humans. Sometimes the weather was very, very hot. Other times the weather was very, very cold, as when great sheets of ice covered the land. As though the weather was not enough to make life difficult back then, wild animals roamed everywhere. Some of these wild animals probably loved to eat humans. Early humans discovered that they needed certain things in order to survive, and they spent their days finding ways to meet those needs. What were the needs of the first humans? The same needs humans have today. Early humans needed air, or oxygen, and food and water to stay alive. They needed shelter and clothing to stay warm and protect themselves from insects and animals. Sometimes, if they felt sick, they needed medicine. They needed to be able to move from one place to another, perhaps to find warmer weather or better water and food. Early humans also needed to defend themselves if they were in danger of being attacked by animals. What else might those early humans have needed? Maybe they had a need to make art when they were feeling creative. Maybe they also had a need for religion or spiritual comfort. Even though the early humans had the same needs as humans today, they did not have the same ways available for meeting those needs. When the very first humans were hungry, there were no stores where they could shop for food. When they were cold, there were no stores where they could buy clothes or houses where they could take shelter. And besides, there was no such thing as money. When the first humans needed to get to one place to another, there were no cars, buses, trains, boats, or planes to take them, not even a bicycle. When the first humans were sick, there were no hospitals to go to. When the first humans were under attack from wild beasts, no one was there to protect them except themselves. No police officers and no soldiers. There were no churches, temples, or other places of worship they could attend. When they felt the need to express themselves artistically, there were no paper or pencils or paint. Imagine how fresh and new the world was for the first humans. The world contained only the things nature provided. Early humans had to learn to meet their needs with what they found in nature. They had to fend for themselves and figure things out all on their own. Luckily, because early humans had large brains, they were able to figure out all sorts of clever ways to meet their needs and survive. And unlike some other animals, like the dinosaur, which became extinct, early humans were good survivors. How do we know they were good survivors? Because humans are still here today, and some are sitting in this very room at this very moment. What did the earliest humans figure out? They figured out that they needed to stick together. They knew that their chances of surviving were greater if they worked and lived together, helping one another out and taking care of one another during hard times, much like the people of today. So humans gathered together in small groups. Perhaps the first group was just one family. Then maybe this family joined another family and another to make a group of families. The earliest humans also figured out that they must eat and that they could eat some plants and certain other animals. Of course, first they had to catch and kill the animals. In the very beginning, it is likely that to catch animals, humans used the natural tools provided by their own bodies, their hands and feet. They could use their legs and feet to run after animals. If the early humans were very lucky, they could use their hands and fingers to grab the animals. The hands of early humans were well designed to grasp things such because each hand had a very useful digit called a thumb. The thumb could rotate in a circle and allowed the humans to grab objects and hang onto them tightly. Because humans had amazing hands and large brains, they soon figured out something else, that they could use objects as tools. The very earliest humans probably used whatever they could find at the time they needed when they needed a tool. Maybe someone picked up a long, leafy branch and shook it to scare an animal that was chasing someone else. Maybe someone realized that a thick tree branch could be used to keep away an attacking animal. Maybe someone picked up a heavy stone and threw it forcefully at an animal to kill it for food. Maybe someone found a huge bone from a dead animal like the woolly mammoth, then used the huge bone to hit another large animal and kill it for food. Maybe someone found a sharp piece of deer antler and used it to stab a big fish that was too slippery and wriggly to catch by hand. With their clever brains, early humans learned quickly that they could do much more with the stones, bones, branches, and sticks and pieces of antler they found and used. These early humans discovered that combining objects often made a better, stronger tool. For example, tying a stone to a stick made a club that was stronger than just a heavy stick. Another important discovery of these early humans was that if they banged certain stones together, sharp chips of stone would break off. These sharp chips of stone made useful tools. Their sharp edges could be used to sharpen a pointy stick or to scrape fat off an animal's skin and cut the skin into thin, strong strips. When tied to pieces of wood or bone or antler, these sharp chips of stone also made useful throwing and stabbing weapons. When early humans hunted successfully, they had raw meat to eat. When they did not hunt successfully, they went hungry. The new tools and weapons helped early humans find food a bit more easily. Early humans would follow herds of animals, such as bison or woolly mammoth, get as close as they could to an animal, and use their new throwing and stabbing weapons to kill the animal. Then the new sharp tools could be used to scrape the meat away from the animal's skin and cut the meat into smaller, chewable pieces. Early humans noticed that there was a source of food all around them, plants. These early humans experimented by eating different leaves, roots, grasses, seeds, berries, and flowers until they found out which were the tasty ones and, most importantly, which were the non poisonous ones. Now, early humans had two ways of meeting their need for food. They could hunt animals and gather plants. Humans who hunt and gather are today called hunter gatherers. Early humans made another important discovery as they sampled the different plants growing on the earth. These early humans discovered that they could use certain plants to feel better. Sometimes, just like people of today, early humans were injured or just felt sick. Maybe someone chewed the leaves from a special plant and discovered that it numbed the pain of a toothache. Maybe someone thought of applying the bark of a tree to a wound to act as a sort of bandage. These early humans were discovering the very first medicines. Now, remember, when we walk around in the woods ourselves, it is not safe for us to be putting plants, unknown plants, in our body. So please do not ever go and eat a plant or stick it in your mouth or on your body that you don't know what it is. Now, what kind of transportation did these early humans have? In the earliest days, early humans wandered around the earth on the very first kind of transportation, their very own feet. Early humans walked everywhere. They walked when they followed herds of animals. They walked as they went from place to place looking for a new type of edible plant. They walked and walked looking for a good stream from which they could drink water or catch fish. At first, when early humans got tired of walking and searching for food at the end of the day, they probably slept wherever they were. Sleeping outside under the stars worked well when the weather was warm and dry and when there were no hungry animals around. Then, maybe by watching how animals took shelter, early humans started to look for caves to sleep in when it rained or snowed or when a large animal was lurking nearby. But because early humans had not yet discovered how to make fire, the caves were sometimes not much better than sleeping on the ground. The caves had no light or warmth. Imagine how dark, damp, and cold it was in these caves. Brr. But these early humans soon discovered a good way to keep warm. They wrapped themselves in the furs of the animals that they had hunted. These early humans did not waste any part of the animals they had to kill. They used the animal skins for clothing and coverings, the bones for tools and weapons, and the meat for food. Once they started sleeping in caves, early humans also found a way to make art. Inside their caves, wherever there were cave walls, these early humans made pictures. One early human used a sharp stone to carve pictures into the rock walls of a cave. Another early human found clay in an interesting new color and used the clay to paint pictures on the rock walls of a cave. And another early human discovered that crushed berries made paint of a beautiful color. Early humans probably used their fingers to apply the paint, just as humans today do when they finger paint, or used a twig or some animal fur to make a paintbrush. Why did early humans make pictures in caves? Maybe, like many artists today, early humans simply wanted to show what they saw in their world. Maybe early humans liked to decorate their homes in the same way people today hang pictures on their walls. Maybe early humans made drawings as a way to leave messages for one another, much as people do today when they leave written notes for one another. Some scientists today believe that some early humans also made art because they believed in a type of magic. For example, early humans may have made paintings of bison with the belief that the painting would bring them good luck while hunting bison. As thousands of years rolled by, the clever early humans figured out many, many new ways to improve the ways they lived. For example, some early humans began to believe that they could live in more comfortable homes than those cold stone caves. These early humans began to experiment with using animal skins, stones, and bones to build dwellings. These early dwellings looked something like tents. In time, some early humans who lived near forests made strong huts by adding pieces of wood to their dwellings. Even later, early humans learned how to make bricks. These early humans clumped mud or clay into shapes that could be stacked, dried the bricks in the sun, and then piled the bricks up to build walls for simple houses. Early dwellings might have been an improvement on caves, but were still often cold and wet and blew over in strong winds. Then early humans made another very important and wonderful discovery. Maybe someone made this important, wonderful discovery by accident, as many important, wonderful discoveries are often made. Maybe one day an early human was chipping away at one stone with another stone, making a tool. As the two pieces of stone hit one another, they caused a spark. Maybe the spark landed on some dry grass, and maybe a small fire started. The early human must have been amazed. Could you imagine, after not having anything for warmth like a fire, or seeing anything like a fire and having this suddenly appear? Must have been crazy. In time, early humans made other discoveries about fire. They figured out that they could start fires by rubbing two pieces of dry wood together for a long time. They figured out that they could carry hot coals with them when they were traveling so that they could start a fire whenever they wanted. Once early humans had discovered fire and how to make it, they discovered many uses for it. Fire changed the lives of early humans in many, many ways. Now, the early humans could build fires to keep warm, to provide light, to cook meat, and maybe even to frighten away big, scary animals that like to eat people. Speaking of big, scary animals, early humans made another important discovery as time went on. They figured out that not all animals were scary and not all animals wanted to eat humans. In fact, some animals could be kept as companions, such as protectors or helpers or as sources of food. Early humans began to keep dog like animals the way people keep dogs today. Early dogs might have been used as watchdogs or hunting dogs or simply valued as friendly pets. Over time, early humans started using animals in different ways. Each new way helped make different kinds of food available. Early humans figured out how to keep herds of sheep and goats, which could be used to supply milk and meat, and flocks of birds similar to today's chickens, which could be used to supply eggs and meat. Some early humans also learned that they could ride certain animals, like the horse. Now, early humans could travel long distances much, much faster than their own feet could carry them. Early humans also began to use strong animals to help them carry heavy loads. As early humans became better at finding and growing food, they needed to make containers that would help them collect and store food. Early humans began to weave baskets out of dried grasses and used these baskets for gathering nuts, fruits, and grains. These baskets also came in handy when early humans wanted to store leftover food. Over time, early humans also learned to weave dried grasses and other natural fibers into mats. Early humans slept and sat on these mats, which were much more warm and comfortable than the bare ground, crunchy leaves, or cold stone. Today, people still make mats, mattresses, and cushions to make sleeping and sitting more warm and comfortable. At this time, early humans made another important discovery. Again, probably by chance. Maybe someone was making a basket from a certain grass and accidentally dropped some of the seeds from the grass onto the ground. After a while, new green grass sprouted up from the seeds. How amazed this early human must have been to figure out that the grass grew from the seeds that had been dropped. Early humans must have observed how plants grew from seeds over and over again to figure out how to plant crops by scattering seeds in the ground. These patient early humans became the Earth's first farmers. planting certain grasses, such as wheat, that produced kernels or seeds. The kernels could be eaten or planted to make more kernels. The hard kernels must have been very difficult to eat until someone figured out that soaking or cooking the kernels in water softened them. Another way of making kernels softer so that they could be eaten was to grind them between stones to make a rough flour. Later, early humans designed a special tool called a mortar and pestle. Some of you might have this in your kitchens today. The mortar was a hard, heavy, bowl-shaped stone, and the pestle was a hard, club-shaped pounding tool made of wood or stone. The pestle was used to crush kernels against the mortar, grinding them into fine pieces or into a powder. By mixing flour with a little water, early humans could now make a dough that could be baked on hot stones placed near a fire. Year by year, the lives of early humans continued to change. Year by year, early humans continued to make more and more discoveries. For example, early humans gradually figured out how to make containers that were much stronger than baskets and did not spring leaks when filled with water. These clever early humans used clay to make containers like pitchers to make them strong and waterproof. They used dried clay on the outside. Some early humans even painted beautiful decorations on the containers. These clay containers were the Earth's first dishes. Year by year, early humans continued to make sharper and better tools and a variety of other objects. With these tools, early humans could cut down grains for food and branches for huts. Early humans could skin dead animals, scrape the animal hides, then cut and stitch the hides into clothes that were light, warm, and comfortable. Early humans could create jewelry and other ornaments from feathers, bones, stones, shells, and leather. Early humans could make light, strong weapons such as spears and arrows for hunting. Early humans could carve simple wooden boats and paddles out of wood from tree trunks. Early humans could even fashion musical instruments, such as flutes and whistles from animal bones and drums from hollowed out tree trunks. Then, one day, early humans discovered an even better way to make tools and other objects. These early humans discovered that a certain rock with brownish red specks in it could be softened when heated in a fire, then hammered into strong tools and attractive jewelry, or used to decorate objects. Humans today call this metal copper, and it is still used to make such things as electrical wiring and coins. Now, early humans could make tools from both stone and copper. In time, early humans would discover many other useful metals in the Earth's rock. Early humans even discovered that combining certain metals, such as copper and tin, could make another useful material called bronze. Bronze was harder than copper and therefore made even stronger tools. In years to come, humans would discover iron, silver, and gold, and many other metals that are still used today. As time went on, some early humans stopped wandering and settled down to farm and live together in villages near rivers, lakes, or streams. Because they all farmed together, sometimes the early humans had such successful harvests that they had more food than they could eat or store. Those early humans needed a way to solve this problem. Finally, someone had the idea of trading, which means exchanging products of equal value. Soon, villages began to trade food and other products with other villages. For example, a village that had lots of sheep but not much wheat could trade some sheep for wheat from another village that had plenty of wheat but not many sheep. Today, people and countries trade goods and services in much the same way. For example, someone buying an apple at a store is trading money for the apple. Over time, another fascinating thing happened to early humans. Early humans who lived close together in villages began to have similar thoughts and actions. For example, the early humans in a certain village located in a hot climate might have dressed in a similar way. Maybe they all dressed in light, white clothing made from a fabric called linen, which was made from a grain called flax. Maybe the early humans in this particular village all dressed in white linen clothing because flax was so plentiful in their village that they could make plenty of linen. The white linen clothing reflected the hot sunlight and made the early humans cooler and more comfortable. Maybe the early humans in this same village mostly ate wheat and fish because lakes and rich soil were plentiful in the area. Maybe over time, the humans in this village developed certain rules of behavior because everyone in the village agreed that these rules were important to peaceful living. For example, maybe it was important to pray to certain gods in this particular village because the people believed those gods would create bountiful harvests of wheat or catches of fish. In these ways and many more, the humans in one village would begin to think, dress, and act in a similar way. Today, this kind of shared behavior in one area is called the culture of that area. Over time, the settlements of early humans on the world's continents created many, many different cultures. Cultures differed depending on where in the world people settled. The people in each culture showed unique shared behaviors, including songs and dances, stories, and art. The people in each culture all had the same needs, but each culture was a little bit different in how its people met those common needs. Each culture developed unique foods, clothing, and shelter. For example, early humans in a very cold climate might have eaten animals more often than plants because plants were hard to find on the frozen earth. These same early humans might have worn fur clothing to keep warm, and their shelters might have been low, dome shaped huts made out of ice, which are now known as igloos. People who lived in a culture in a hot climate would wear very different clothing, eat very different food, and build very different houses. Each culture had unique ways of traveling from place to place. For example, early humans in some cultures rode on camels, and early humans in other cultures rode on donkeys. Each culture developed unique ways of defending themselves against enemies as well. The early humans of some cultures believed that wearing a special charm on a necklace would ward off evil forces, while early humans of another culture built walls of stone around their villages to keep out enemies. Each culture also developed unique religions and forms of spirituality, and unique ways of making medicines and treating people who were sick or wounded. One of the most important parts of each culture was its language. Like humans today, early humans needed to have ways to communicate with one another quickly and easily. Imagine the world with no language. Just as each culture was a little bit different, so the language the early humans spoke on one continent sounded different from the language spoken on another continent. In fact, often the language spoken in one village sounded completely different from the language spoken in another village just a few miles or kilometers away. In some places in the world today, this is still true. In some areas of the earth, about 5,000 years ago, a fascinating thing was happening to language. Early humans in these areas had been communicating with each other by making sounds, words, and gestures. Now, these early humans were discovering a way to turn spoken words into written words. Up until now, early humans had not written down their words, only spoken them. Imagine the world without any books. Imagine humans with nothing to read. How did the brilliant invention of writing things down change the lives of early humans? Well, how writing began and how writing improved life for early humans is a whole nother story. In this third grade lesson, we learned how humans came to Earth and how they learned and grew and changed. Now, I want you to go and have a conversation with the adults in your home about how they think humans came to Earth and how they grew and changed. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time for the fourth grade lesson.